Hey guys, and welcome back. So on the detox video, I actually had a couple people reach out and want to know more about my weight loss or health journey, whichever bucket you want to lump that into. Sorry, whenever I decide to make a video, there's a rooster that thinks that I'm talking to him, and so he parks right outside my window. Um, And I contemplated this and I thought about this because it's like, how much do I want to share? Because for me personally, my weight loss and my weight gains are tied to a lot of emotional trauma. And I don't mean that like an excuse, right? Like I ate because people were mean to me. I sought comfort in food because of tragic and horrible things that have happened in my life. And this really goes really far back for me. And so to actually kind of get to the core of how I got to the point where I can get to this area where I think I've actually lost right at 50 pounds now, really started in my head, if I'm going to be honest with you. And, my connection and finding my worth in who I am through my creator, and finding value in the fact that it doesn't matter what people say about me. It doesn't matter if people are mean to me in the comment section. And some of them are, but you have to deal with that. It's very easy to say things behind a keyboard when you don't actually have to face somebody and deal with the consequences. And then, people in life are just naturally negative and mean and hurtful and say things. I mean, my kids even still say things sometimes too, and be a little too raw with me. But again, these are my traumas, my issues that I have to deal with, and I can't just project that out on other people. And there comes a point also where we can have horrible childhoods where our mothers were terrible people and our dads did terrible things, and maybe we got married and they did terrible things to us too. That we have to kind of take accountability for how we deal with that. Not necessarily what happened to us, but how we deal with it. And so for me, that was kind of where this all started. My life has, without sharing too much information because I don't want to dredge all that back up, my life has pretty much been on fire off and on for a long time, but it really kind of culminated and came to a head in the past 3 years. And in those 3 years, I saw the most dramatic up and down on the scale. At my heaviest, I was around 270 pounds. At this point, that has taken me down to almost a little over 100 pounds lost. And they're pictures that I pray never see the light of day. But in that, it was because I was using food as a comfort, and I was using food as a place of where everything else was going to Hades in a handbasket. At least, the spaghetti still tasted great. The cupcakes were still good. That soda was hitting in the right spot. Like whatever my excuses were in that time frame, I use them. And I'm only judging myself on this. If any of this resonates with you, then you probably need to pray about that and figure out how to address it personally in your own life, because my trauma is not your trauma. And again, I don't say trauma in the sense of like it's so overused in the media, but bad things do happen to us and we have to learn how to healthily process them. So when like literally everything was coming to a head in May, my divorce was getting close, things were kind of coming to a head in a lot of different areas. Ironically, work was the only thing that kind of stayed, normal. But I started thinking about, I have to find a healthy way to process everything that's going on with me. So around the middle of May, right after Mother's Day, I just started walking, right? Because sitting in the house was becoming too overwhelming for me, constantly fighting and all of the issues that were going on at home was just too much. And so I started walking and I really started to feel better. And after doing research, I have found that walking actually helps us deal with trauma. So if you're going through something traumatic in your life, based off of my own experience, just start walking. Even 15, 20 minutes a day will have a huge impact on your mental health and how you deal with things. Because usually, like, I'm an overthinker. And my love languages are acts of service and physical touch. And of course, like, they kind of play into this weird dynamic in my head. But in that, I had to figure out a way of processing the trauma. And so I started going for walks. And at that point, I didn't even know what I was doing. So God had a better plan for me than I had for myself, as always. And I started walking. And it was literally just, that's all it took to start kick-starting things. And I really started to enjoy my walks. And I really enjoyed being outside. And I was getting sun. And I was getting vitamin D. And, like, I really enjoyed that time away. And I kept doing it. And it really motivated me to kind of get my diet in shape, because I'm kind of like, okay, well, if I'm wasting all this time and energy, like going out for a walk, it needs to be for something else too, right? And so I really locked down on my OMAD at that point. I found a sweet spot for myself to eat dinner sometimes around between 3 and 4-ish, because I was doing research and actually found that you want to try to complete your meals for 3 to 4 hours before you go to bed, because it actually helps with your digestion. It helps give you deeper sleep. There's a lot of benefits to not eating late at night. I also moved recently because I noticed, I'm a nighttime snacker. I always have been a nighttime snacker, because in my family growing up, like, when the kids were little and stuff, we ate at the dinner table. But, like, when I was a child, we were TV dinner type people. We sat around the television with our TV trays, and we ate food. And so it was kind of ingrained in me, when the television's on, we should probably be snacking. So I had to give up television, not forever, right? But in the same instance of, like, if I'm going to watch my YouTube videos or something like that, I can put them on while I'm walking and listening to them, depending on what it is, right? If it's something that's more podcast type versus something that's more instructional, the instructional I'll usually put on, like, while I'm eating. I don't use the kitchen table anymore, and haven't since the kids got super, super active and gone. For the most part, well, the oldest has moved out. The middle one has moved out, and they've all started their lives and their careers. And the baby is always at their friend's house, or she is at school, or she is at work. And so I rarely see her. I think we probably connect maybe 12 hours a week now. So for the most part, I'm here alone all the time. It's pluses and minuses on that. But in the same instance, I can now kind of curtail what I need to do for myself. Now, this is not something that's going to happen for me forever. It's a season that I'm in, right? And I'm very appreciative for the island that I'm kind of on right now, with my health and my exercise. I've got a great support system. I struggled a lot in my life. And again, these are all things that kind of piggybacked off of where I was about my own self-worth. I never thought I was good enough. There was a lot of damage done in those formative years that it really took me into my 40s until I started building my tribe. And I have a great group of women that surround me, and they have wonderful husbands that have been quite supportive in trying to help me get through this season. And so with that being said, I started the walking. I locked down on my OMAD. If OMAD's not for you, if you're more keto, carnivore, whatever, just be very conscious about what you're putting into your body. And I actually found for myself that the synthetic folic acid that was in the foods was actually causing a lot of inflammation in my body. And when my body hurt, it was hard for me to get up and get motivated. So getting that out of my diet helped me stay at a place where I didn't hurt when I walked. It actually helped with the swelling in my feet. So I could tell that it was really causing a lot of unnecessary inflammation in my body. And so I've cut that completely out, and I can really tell. What helped with me on that was setting a rigorous schedule for food. And again, when you're doing OMAD, it's pretty easy. But Monday nights was one thing, Tuesday night was one thing, Wednesday night, so on and so forth. And I would do that for a 2 or 3 week period. And then I would assess how my body felt after I ate those foods. And then the next week, I would be like, well, it really felt kind of crummy after I ate this. And I would take it out of my diet the next week to see if it was just an off day. I would maybe switch out, see if there was some hidden junk in there. I do try to make a lot of stuff from scratch, but honestly, sometimes, I get stuff from other people and maybe they don't realize they put something in there that could inflame me. So I have to kind of go back. So like my sourdough lady, I had to go back to her and ask her a question, just to try to get to the bottom line of what's going on. The problem is people approach health from this one-track mind when each of us are kind of different. Each of us have different things that are going on with us, and so we have to just kind of look at our diet and see what's triggering things. I also keep my metabolism always guessing. Some nights it's very basic, easy eggs and beef bacon for dinner with a slice of toast, and then sometimes it's spaghetti and there's a lot of cheese, and I go back and forth. Now, I started with walking. I started with 2 miles a day. Again, depending on where your health is, that might not be good. Actually, the first time I went on, it was a 5-mile walk. Totally regretted that one. Let's not jump off into the deep end. But I worked myself up to ultimately where I'm right at around 7 to 8 miles a day. Well, then I just kind of plateaued on that too and didn't see any real changes. And so I had to think of a better way to step it up, because the hills and stuff that I walk on the circle around my house, my body got used to it. So I did add a backpack, but unfortunately with the weighted sack and everything, people actually started stopping me on my walks and asking me if I was broke down or needed a ride. Even though they saw me every day, I guess logic was thrown out the window. So I ended up getting a gym membership. Now, I'm not a big advocate for gym memberships unless you don't really have any other choice, because sometimes they're ridiculously expensive, and who has $120 a month to devote to a gym membership? But mine's $20 a month. It's a little off the beaten path type of place. Don't even have air conditioning. I pray we have heat. Winter might be fun. But I go there and I've actually started getting on the treadmills because I can set more of a challenging incline. I actually bought myself a weighted vest. So if I am actually walking around the neighborhood and stuff like that, it's actually strapped to me. So hopefully people don't think I'm needing a ride. And so I put that weighted vest on a couple times a week. When my weighted vest isn't on, I up my incline and up my speed on the treadmill. And what I find also, like, of course, with the weight that I was losing, my skin was, I'm 46 years old, so my skin wasn't recovering the way I wanted it to. Well, I didn't want to gain the weight back so my skin looked better. That's counterproductive. So I upped my hydration, which was huge. And then with upping the hydration, I usually at a bare minimum drink 80 to 100 ounces of water a day. Make sure that water is a reputable source. Make sure that water doesn't have chlorine or any other junk in it. And then I add electrolytes to my water, either with just a basic salt if I want something easy and simple, or sometimes I do the LMNTs, which are kind of nice too. And then you get a little more magnesium in your diet, which is nice. And then with the water, the walking, and everything else, and really honing in on my diet. I mean, it sounds like, like when you tell people, oh, I've lost 50 pounds, they're like, that's incredible. What are you doing? And they're expecting for you to be like, well, I starved myself for 6 months and I climbed the Appalachians. No. Very small changes can have such big impacts on your life. And when I thought about this new season that I'm going into, and the fact that there's a very good chance that I might be prepping alone, and even if I joined my community, I would still be single within the community. And so I've got to have a way that I can depend on myself, and my health can actually meet the expectations of what might be required if I have to actually do more physical and manual labor. And so I think it's kind of hard to sit here and say, oh, I have this prepared mindset and I make everything from scratch, and then really be failing in the areas that matter the most, which is my health. And again, we're all going through different struggles and we're all at different places. I'm not judging anybody. I was just judging myself of where I felt. Because once I got my head fixed, right, with all the walking, it's like, where do I go from here? Um, Abba was, Father was closing all those doors, and he was really putting me on a narrow path and trying to seek the discernment of like where I'm supposed to be and what I'm supposed to be doing. And he really has made a clear path for me that I really just need to be focusing on my health, focusing on my future, focusing on my business, like not getting wrapped up in the voices, right, in my head that negative talk myself. I think we are terrible at forgiving ourselves, but great at forgiving others. If my bestie was to be like, oh, shucks, I gained 15 pounds, I wouldn't say the same thing to her that I would probably say to myself in my head. Negative self-talk is so detrimental that we've got to stop doing. I'm not saying we don't call ourselves out on sin, and I'm not saying that we don't try to hold ourselves to a better standard of living. But if you eat a cupcake, don't call yourself stupid and fat. That's pretty much the moral of the story. Give as much grace to yourself as you would give to your bestie or somebody like that if they were going through the same struggles you were going through. And you will actually find there's a mental shift from the damage that has been done from so many people depleting at your self-worth for so many years. And when you find your self-worth is, in your creator and what gifts he's bestowed upon you, there really are real changes that start to happen in a mental shift, right? My downtime is spent in my Bible or studying homestead stuff, or right now I have massive amounts of soap being made behind the scenes here. That's why I keep watching the pots so they don't overflow. And we just get busy. And really that was the biggest thing for me, was just staying busy, staying focused. If I got really frustrated about something, instead of just allowing it to ruminate inside of me, I go for a walk. And usually by the time I get back from that walk, I've calmed down a little bit. I'm a little more rational about what's going to happen. I've actually thought about it, right? Probably worked about 6 or 7 scenarios out in my head before I come back and deal with it. And if you have teenagers and 20-year-old children, you might understand the need to step away sometimes because now they have their independence and they don't want to listen to anything. So the long and short of it, those are really the basic changes I've made. Of course, adding my detoxes in from time to time, finding a good lymphatic detox, finding a good liver detox, staying on top of what you put inside your body, going for walks, not competing with your neighbor. I mean, competition is good to a certain extent, but you don't want to measure yourself by somebody else, right? They might have started at a very different place than you do, and if God help you, if you're comparing yourself to a man, because he can be like, I want to lose 5 pounds, and 30 minutes later he's lost it. As to where us ladies, it takes us a little bit longer. Just compare yourself to yourself, right? Try to be better than you were yesterday. And if you want a cookie, eat a cookie. Eat a cookie. But don't eat a bag of cookies, and don't kind of wallow in that self-pity once you do. I mean, one of my most self-destructive things that I would tell myself when I would fall off the wagon would be, well, I screwed up yesterday. I might as well screw up today and I'll start Monday. I don't know what it is about starting diets on Monday or changes on Monday, but like Mondays are hard enough as they are. Don't start on Mondays. Pick a Wednesday. Wednesdays are great. If you want to do it, start it today. Start it tomorrow. Literally go for a 15-minute walk this afternoon, and I guarantee you're going to feel better. Stay away from the scale. If you want to mark it from the beginning, say this is where I started, then weigh yourself every couple of weeks, because I'm telling you that scale is straight from the devil. It will lie to you every day of the week, because that scale told me for 3 weeks that I didn't lose any weight, but I dropped 2 pant sizes. The math doesn't math on that one. So so as you're lifting weights and as you're gaining muscle, the scale is going to tell you you're heavier, but your pant size and everything else and, what you wear is going to tell you there's a difference going on. And really, to me, the biggest factor was paying attention to my energy levels. If my energy levels are going up and I'm doing better today than I was yesterday, then I can really tell that what I'm doing is working. Listen to your body. If you're super tired, super fatigued, make sure you're getting at least 1 day of rest a week, preferably Saturday. And then make sure you're having that downtime to really focus on the mental side of things too, we can overwork ourselves and overstress ourselves. So usually I spend my Saturdays in my Bible, really concentrating back and trying to figure out, where Father wants to take me the rest of the week. That's coming up. Really good to pull back, really good to reset the brain and recharge. We were made for downtime too. So that's pretty much it. Everybody, like I said, there were a couple of requests to try to see what I was doing, but for me, it was very small, very basic changes that literally anybody can incorporate. And if you start with 15 minutes and just keep adding a couple minutes, you will find in a couple months' time, you are leaps and bounds over where you were. Add some weight resistance to your life, especially if you're getting into your 30s and 40s. That's going to be very good for your bone health later. And just remember that the time that you invest now in your health is probably medical bills that you won't have to pay later. That's just the way I kind of look at it. You're either going to pay for it now or you're going to pay for it later. So when do you want to pay for it? So that's just my 2 cents on what's been, how I got to here and the 50 pounds that I have lost since May. It can be done. You just have to, and if you want to see where I was, my early videos, well, it's there. And then I don't know if I'll ever share the videos or the pictures from 10, 12 years ago, but they were pretty raw. On a fun note before I go, the new shampoo bars have hit. For those of you that have used the old shampoo bars, I listened to you. Some of us who have, like the ends down here, I still have some color in. I'm letting it grow out naturally. I earned every one of these gray hairs and I'm going to embrace them. But the new shampoo bars are lye free. They're actually like 3 different versions of coconut oils and stuff blended together and then compressed into these bars. They're not perfect by any stretch of the imagination because they've got little lumps and stuff in them, but that's like the homemadeness of them. I had to give up perfection on my soap years ago, but I kind of like the chunkiness to them. And they pair well with the conditioner bar that was always out there in the store. Very basic. I mean, for those of you who have longer hair, right, for us ladies and stuff, you'll really have to kind of work it into your hair just a minute. But then once you get a little lather worked up, it goes up. They seem to last for a while. Mine's been in my shower for probably over a month now, and she's only reduced by about half the size. The orange one is for curly/dry hair. The pink one is for everyday or all hair types. And then the gray one is clarifying. And I find with my newly inherited silver hair, it really enjoys this clarifying one. It actually strips the yellows out of the hair, which kind of naturally show up with the gray hair. And then if you need the extra conditioner, because these actually do have a conditioner in them, but if you need any extra conditioner, the conditioner bar is quite nice too, but you have to remember with these conditioner bars, they don't suds up. They're just adding a slip to it so you can rub them in your hand and get your hand slippery and run it through your hair as a leave-in if you wanted to. Or if you're going to use it in the shower itself, again, you can rub the bar through your hair or lather it up in your hair and just kind of run it through the places. And you'll be able to tell like where it needs it because you'll try to run your fingers through your hair and it'll stop. And you can just add a little conditioner there. Try not to condition at the base of your hair, especially if you have oily hair, just because it's going to make it look heavier. Unless I'm really, really, really sweating or doing a hard work or whatever, I don't wash my hair every day. That's actually very bad for your hair to wash your hair every day. You want those oils to kind of build up a little bit. But again, we're not trying to go 6 months without washing our hair. So I usually average, when my hair was really long, which it'll be again, I'm growing it back out. I just needed to cut it off for personal reasons. But when your hair gets really long, right, it's going to take a little bit more conditioning and a little bit more time. And so like, I don't wash it as much unless I absolutely have to when it's super long, just because the mental load to try to dry it and put it up and do all that is kind of taxing. If you know, you know. So these are now active in the store. I'm going to put the link below with the coupon code. I've gotten phenomenal feedback on it. I have yet to hear anything except, of course, the bigger complaint is when it gets super, super, super thin, it will eventually break. But I mean, all bars of soap do eventually break. So you just take the little pieces and try to work with it as best you can. But yeah, so I just wanted to let you know, because I had talked about in the past that they were coming, to let everybody know that they are out in full force, and I actually am getting phenomenal feedback on them, and everybody likes them. I hope you found this inspiring. I hope you found it beneficial. Just that it can be done. And again, you're not gonna lose weight at the rate that I lost weight. You're not going to change yourself the way you did. You might actually comment on here 3 months from now, I lost 900 pounds in 3 minutes. I mean, that's great. I'm happy for you. None of us are in competition with each other. We're only in competition with ourselves to make sure that the best version of ourselves shows up every day for our family, right? We pour back into ourselves, and it might sound selfish, but it's not. It is not selfish by any stretch of the imagination. I'm definitely talking to all you mothers out there to take 15, 20, 30 minutes a day, go for a walk, pour into yourself, because if you get away and you pour into yourself, you're going to be a better wife, a better mother, a better friend, a better sister, a better all of those things. And I'm pretty sure it'd be beneficial for men too, but I can't speak for men because I've never been one and don't ever assume to be one. So I appreciate you guys stopping by. If you stuck around to the end, thank you so much, and I'll see you next time.